Okay everybody, Mrs. Rainey here. I'm going to do a tutorial on watercolor and the different techniques for watercolor. We have our page here that shows us all the different ways and the different things that we're going to do. And then we have prepared our watercolor practice board, which hopefully everybody at home has done this. You use masking tape to tape off a portion of your board, these different sections, and then when we're done painting and we peel the tape off, all of the area underneath the tape is going to create nice dividing lines for the work that we've done, and we'll be able to label what we've done so we'll remember later when we go back and check our work. Okay, this also is an assignment that will be due in Canvas this week, so make sure that you've checked the dates. I have here a cup of water, just an old plastic cup filled with water. I only like to fill my cups about halfway just in case they spill. I try not to let them, fill them too full, so hopefully they won't spill. And then I've got some isopropyl alcohol. This is rubbing alcohol. If you're at home and you can't use alcohol or you don't have any of this, it's okay. It's optional. You don't have to have it. The salt also here is really great. Just a pinch. It creates a nice effect with the watercolor. So I'm going to teach you a couple of different things. First of all, when we're working with watercolors, we always want to make sure that we start by putting water in the tray. Okay, that's what these trays are for. The lid of your watercolor palette is for mixing paint. So if you didn't know that, congratulations, you just learned something new. All right, so I'm going to do a flat wash. And a flat wash, basically, that's what I'm going to start with. Flat wash basically is just when you try to put one even coat of watercolor on the board. So here's my watercolor board. I like to hold it upright and just gonna drag my brush across. I'm gonna pick up where that edge laid over, and I'm gonna try to make sure that my color is consistent all the way across the board in this, okay? And that's going to be a flat wash, okay? And then after that, I'm going to do what's called a grated wash. And a grated wash is when you're going to go from lighter or from darker to light. So you're creating a gradient where you have like the darker color on top and the lighter color on the bottom. Some people call it a fade, where you're not going to go back and reuse any paint. You're going to start at the top, and then you're just going to keep going down the bottom, and you're going to let it get lighter and lighter and lighter as you go down towards the bottom. My brush got a little dry there. So it's darker at the top and it's gotten lighter at the bottom, okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a technique called wet and wet. So when you're using wet and wet, you want to make sure that you have a paper towel nearby so you can dry your brush, get all the color out of your brush. You don't want any color left in your brush at all. Once you've cleaned your brush sufficiently, you have no color in it at all, you're going to wet the page, okay? And you're just going to paint the paper with wet water, and then you're going to go back and you're going to add your color. And you're just going to watch the watercolor do its thing, okay? It creates this nice technique. If you want to use a different color, you can go ahead and mix up some purple, and we'll do some purple, and we'll do wet and wet with the purple, okay? And you can see how the colors just kind of mix and do their own thing, and it's this nice faded marbled effect that it leaves on the page. All right. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a flat wash with salt, okay? So I'm going to come here and I'm going to take this blue and I'm going to do a flat wash, all right? So I've got a nice even coat of blue on my paper, and I'm going to take a little pinch of salt. Doesn't take much, just a little pinch. And I'm going to leave the salt on it, okay? Just going to leave the salt on the paper. Okay, then the next thing that I'm going to do is a technique called Scruffito. So Scruffito is when it's an Italian word, and it's when you scratch the surface of your watercolor paper to kind of create like an effect. So take something sharp. For me, it doesn't have to be super sharp. A paper clip is just enough, you know, and you use that to kind of scratch the surface of your watercolor paper. So like if we were going to be drawing maybe grass, okay, we're gonna scratch the surface, and then I'm going to mix up a little bit of green, okay, because I want this to look like grass, all right? So I'm gonna mix up a little bit of green. And then when I go to paint my green on here, you should be able to see the Scruffito marks in the paper. I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm just going to lift it off just a little. And there you have it. Okay. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do the technique that I just used along with the Scruffito called lifting off. Let's do that, okay? Let's say we want to paint our sky blue, and we want to make it look like there's some clouds in the sky. So I can take my paper towel, crumple it up, and just make it look like I'm just lifting the paint off of the surface to make it look like maybe there's some clouds or just this effect, right? Okay. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is dry brush. So when you're dry brushing, you want to dry your brush off as much as possible, okay? And make sure that it's super dry as possible. And then you're going to take some paint. I like to take some paint like that doesn't have water on it, and just use your brush dry, and make it look, this could also look like, you know, grass, or you're gonna see a lot of the texture or the inside of from the paper coming through, okay? So it's a great effect for grass or a rocky surface or a cliff or something like that. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is alcohol. When you are using rubbing, this is alcohol, not like alcohol you drink, but like rubbing alcohol. And when you're using rubbing alcohol, I'm gonna have to get it open first. So let me do that because I don't think it's open. So when you're using alcohol, it makes this really kind of cool effect on the paper. And I like to use it for like making a galaxy or stars, or giving this kind of like cosmic effect on the paper. And let's see. So if I'm going to paint my square or my section, I'm going to do a nice flat wash across the whole entire section. And then I'm going to take the back side of my brush, this yellow part, I'm going to dip it in the alcohol, and then I'm going to dip it, just press it on the page. And you can see there it has this really kind of cool effect on the paint. It makes the paint kind of spread and dissipate. All right. Okay, and then masking again is the effect we're using with the tape. We're masking part of the paper, and so the paint won't show through. This last square, what I want you guys to do is free choice, okay? But before we do that, if you were going to do spattering, most of you probably already know this technique, but if you were going to do spattering, that is like if you were going to take some paint and use your brush and then just spatter. Okay? Again, that adds like a cosmic or galactic background or polka dotted look. Your choice. So this last square, again, is a free choice square. So experiment with the media, do something fun, be bold, be playful, take a risk with it. We'll come back in a few minutes and we'll peel this tape off, and you'll be able to see that when you peel it off, it's gonna leave this nice open surface, just like so. We wanna make sure that all of our paint is nice and dry before we do that. So hopefully Mrs. Rainey hasn't done this too early, but we'll be able to come back through and then label everything, like lifting off, dry brushing, etc., etc. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me or email me, and I will be happy to help you. And I can't wait to see what you guys do. Thanks a lot.